How's it going, everybody? I'm Jonathan Dorello. Today I'll be giving you my Solo, a Star Wars story review. And by the title, you can probably guess that I wasn't a huge fan of it. But I'm not going to bash it as you're expecting me to bash it. That being said, I do feel like we're kind of experiencing a little bit of Star Wars fatigue. I mean, this wasn't a terrible movie by any stretch. I mean, like, it's definitely a bottom tier Star Wars movie, but it wasn't a terrible movie. It just wasn't a great movie at the same time. And I know there was issues with the movie during the filming process and everything, but in this video I'm pretty much just gonna explain what I thought was good about the movie, what I thought was bad about the movie, and what I kind of thought was indifferent, because this was the first Star Wars movie that I've walked out of in the new set of Star Wars movies where I kind of didn't have an opinion one way or the other. When I walked out of The Force Awakens, I was like, breath of fresh air, we get Star Wars again, this is amazing, this is so cool. Then Rogue One, I thought Rogue One was flawless. I thought that is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, probably up there with Empire. Not as good as Empire, obviously, but close enough to Empire to be able to put it in that 2 spot. And then even back a couple months ago when we had The Last Jedi, I walked out of that movie and that was a very good movie. And I really enjoyed that, and I think that that is one of the mid-tier Star Wars movies, but it's still a lot better than what this movie was with Solo. As far as some of the pros that I saw in this movie, the things that I liked about this movie, obviously being a huge Donald Glover fan and huge Childish Gambino fan, I was very excited to see what he would do with the Lando role, and I think that he did do a great job as Lando. And I've been seeing reviews saying that, oh, Donald's Lando saved the movie. I don't think it necessarily saved the movie. It definitely made one of the actual deaths that actually made me feel something. And of course, spoiler alert for anything that goes on in the movie if you haven't seen it yet. When L3 dies, his acting actually kind of brings out a little bit more emotion than you think there would be for a droid death. Like, his connection to L3 and the character's connection to L3 and the way that Donald went about showing that in his acting, I thought that that was very good. Donald's acting isn't the only acting that I thought was very good. I did like Aiden's Han Solo. I thought that it's what he needed it to be. He wasn't trying to be Harrison Ford. He was just trying to give his representation of a younger version of that character, and I thought that it was very good. As far as his interpretation of what the character at that age should have been. And I'm not mad about anything surrounding either of those two characters, and I think they were both really well done. Another pro that I liked is how they kind of explained Han's backstory a little bit. Towards the end of the film, obviously, they show how he got the Millennium Falcon, and how Lando kind of like cheated him the first time around, and he realized, oh, you cheated me the first time around, so this time I'm not going to let you have that option, and I'm actually going to win the Falcon from you fair and square this time. And that's pretty much it in terms of pros. I mean, of course you have, it looked beautiful, I mean, it was shot very well, and I did like some of the darker, when Han was in the Imperial Army and he was going through the like the battlefields and stuff, that little montage there, I thought that was a very good set of scenes, and I think Star Wars needs to go down that route a little more, and I think they will, especially with the Boba Fett movie that has been announced, as well as the Obi-Wan movie. I feel like they have to kind of go down that darker path. This seemed, and I hate to use this phrase, but this did seem very Disney. Like, it was very predictable, and I'll talk about it more with my cons, but I feel like the Star Wars universe has so much to offer in some of the darker parts of the universe that I feel like they need to explore that more. We've always kind of had this good versus evil, like, oh, hey, it's all going to work out in the end type thing. but I don't think they should go that route. I mean, obviously they will in the core films, but with these anthology films and all these spin-off films, I think this is a great opportunity for them to go down a darker path. As for what I didn't like about the movie, there's a lot to not like about this movie. I mean, personally, I felt it was a little bit too long and drawn out. There were multiple points where I was like, "Oh, are we about to end the movie? Is it over?" And then they transitioned into something different. So that wasn't too bad. I mean, it's over. I believe it's over 2 hours, so it's a little bit drawn out for my liking. Especially because my biggest problem with this movie is that the writing just wasn't good. Like, there were multiple points in this movie where I was like, this sounds like something that would be written into a video game more than into a Hollywood blockbuster movie. For example, when Woody Harrelson's character Beckett, when they're trying to get off the salt mines, and Woody Harrelson's character says something like along the lines of, "Oh, we have to keep them off the cannons," and then everybody kind of just turns and targets all of the soldiers by the cannons. That's something that I would expect out of Call of Duty's like campaign mode and not a Star Wars movie, you know? I mean, I don't know. There were certain lines in here that just didn't seem like they were very well written, and I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. And in addition to that, the writing was very predictable. You could kind of predict what was going to happen next in a lot of the situations. Like, the whole thing with Beckett at the very end of the movie, the whole thing with Beckett kind of betraying them, like, you could kind of see that coming. Like, it wasn't like, oh my god, he betrayed them. Like, no, they kind of alluded to it earlier on. Like, it wasn't that hard to figure out. Another thing that I didn't really like about the movie was that there were multiple death scenes in here that were clearly meant to make the audience feel emotion towards the death of this character, and they just kind of fell flat. And, like, for example, I mean, Val's death, the way that they wrote that into the thing, like, this was this major sacrifice and all this stuff, and, like, I didn't know enough about the character to feel some type of way about this character dying. And, like, yes, they had the little bit before it with, like, her and Beckett's relationship and everything, but it wasn't as sad as it should have been. Like, I don't know, I don't think it was bad acting, because we've seen the actress who plays Val in, she plays Maeve in Westworld. Like, she's a great actress, and I think this falls under the bad writing again, because it just didn't do it for me. And then the other character, the monkey, Ray? No, not Ray. Rio. I can't even remember the character's name. That's how insignificant this character death was to the movie. His name, I'm pretty sure his name was Rio. Now that I think about it, but like the four-armed like monkey guy. When he died, like, he kind of died with this, like, message to Han, like, oh, don't die alone. And then it was just like, okay, yeah, like, he died with a message, but, like, who is this character? What impact does he have on everything? Like, I don't know. For me, it just didn't, the death scenes just didn't have what they really needed to have, as far as bringing emotion, pulling at your heartstrings, and that type of thing. And my last really big problem with this movie is that the one thing that was supposed to be like, oh my god, mind-blowing moment, the giant twist at the end, it was alright. I mean, and for those of you that haven't seen the movie yet, spoiler warning throughout this entire video, obviously. At the end, when Kira decides that she's not going with them after after Han leaves with all of the coaxium or whatever, and she like closes the blinds and she gets on, like the holo with Darth Maul, and it's this big reveal that Darth Maul is alive. When, I mean, for the average person who watches a Star Wars film, 9 times out of 10, you're either huge into Star Wars or you're kind of just a movie person. And for those who have seen Rebels and Clone Wars, although I haven't watched them personally, I do know that Darth Maul is alive after the Phantom Menace, and that wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, there was like one person that was like, "Oh my god," in the theater, like, "Oh my god," like it. As a Star Wars fan, knowing that he's still alive in the universe, it fell flat on its face. And all of this is why the movie itself is falling flat on its face. I mean, they had a terrible first weekend. I mean, they made 143 million worldwide, which is less than half of the last movie. And that's why I kind of think that we're going through this Star Wars fatigue right now. I mean, it's not like we haven't had a Star Wars movie in the last, I don't know, 6 months. 6 months ago, The Last Jedi came out. Like, there was literally just a Star Wars movie. And that was so well done. And then to have this kind of fall flat on its face, personally, I think that Disney and Lucasfilm need to take a step back. I know they have plans for the Boba Fett, for episode 9 for next year, and then the Boba Fett and Obi-Wan movies, but I really think that after episode 9, they should take a year. Like, take a year, take 2 years. Just make sure whatever the movie you come out with after episode 4 is Rogue One level. If it's the Boba Fett movie, if it's the Obi-Wan movie, I'm not sure which one they're coming out with first. I think that they need to take a break and let people breathe and let people have that moment of, oh my god, Star Wars is back in movie theaters, let's go see it, type thing. But yeah, so as far as my overall thoughts of this movie, it was a decent movie. It's definitely not the best Star Wars movie, but it's definitely not the worst. It was a decent movie. It had me kind of indifferent walking out of the movie theater, which is weird. The only questions that I have are what actually happened with Qi'ra, who is played by Emilia Clarke, and what kind of happens to that character. And I'm hoping that that gets explored in the Boba Fett movie. They definitely set it up towards the end. I mean, the Darth Maul thing was kind of like, oh hey, Darth Maul's still alive, so guess what, you're probably going to get an Obi-Wan movie. And then the whole thing with like, oh, there's this gangster on Tatooine that's kind of like has this big job. Okay, so you're going to have Jabba the Hutt, probably Boba Fett, in with the same regard. That makes sense. So yeah, I didn't think it was a great movie. I thought it was kind of a bottom tier Star Wars movie, but that's my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.